2 more wins. 2 more wins. And the Indiana Fever is headed to the WNBA Finals. Let that sink in for a second. The Indiana Fever only need to win 2 more games, and they will be in the WNBA Finals. And they stole the first of 3 today against the Las Vegas Aces, beating them 89-73. A very convincing win.
Okay, so the WNBA is really nervous right now. Get this. The Indiana Fever are only 2 wins away from the finals, and honestly, who saw that coming? Absolutely nobody. Their underdog squad just rolled into Vegas, completely dominated the Aces, and walked out with a huge statement win. All of a sudden, that dynasty everyone was talking about, it's looking a little shaky.
Fever at the Aces in Las Vegas on their home court with their home referees. The Indiana Fever pulled off this victory, and I feel like I'm one of the only people, or at least aside from the mainstream media, who truly thinks that the Indiana Fever can pull this off. Do you remember a couple days ago on ESPN, they were saying like the chances that the teams had to make it to the finals or to win a championship, and it was 5 teams: Lynx, the Aces, Mercury, the Liberty, and the Indiana Fever. And they had the Indiana Fever as the lowest chances of winning the WNBA Finals.
So do you actually think the Fever can do it? I mean, it's just 2 wins. Seriously, that's all that stands between Indiana and the WNBA Finals. This is the same team that everyone, the league, the media, gave the absolute lowest odds to. Nobody thought they'd even come close to a championship. This franchise has been a joke for years, but here they are making the powerful Aces look completely vulnerable on their own home court. And look, this wasn't some lucky shot or a last-second nail-biter. Indiana crushed Las Vegas 89-73. That's a 16-point beatdown in the Aces' house with their home crowd and their own refs. The Fever didn't just barely win, they owned that game. They exposed every single weakness, and they sent a huge message. This panic isn't just talk anymore, it's totally real.
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, you know, our group has seen it all. You know, we wanted to come in and be the aggressor right away, to make sure that we were dictating on the defensive end, and we were dictating from a pace standpoint. You know, they're champions for a reason. We knew that they were going to make runs. They made a big one in the third, and we responded with a big one. I'm proud of our team. It's one game, it's a long series, so you know we got to keep the main thing. But to come in here and to be able to steal this one was big for us.
Remember all those pre-series predictions? Everyone, like ESPN and other sports outlets, basically had the Aces and Liberty already playing in the finals. They'd throw Minnesota a bone, maybe even mention Phoenix. But Indiana? Nah, they were just the fun team, the one that was just happy to be there. The team with absolutely no shot. But here's the thing, the scoreboard doesn't lie. Indiana went out there and already snatched the toughest game of the entire series, that first one on the road.
The team's ability to handle a game where Asia is not able to like dominate, where would you guys rank your level of concern surrounding that, and how do you guys kind of fix that?
It's not necessarily my level of concern. I know we're capable, but not when we play like that. You know, God forbid Asia doesn't drop 40 for us, but we had 12 assists tonight in 40 minutes, 12, and 12 turnovers. But you can start on the defensive end. I mean, clearly we had no answer for Mitchell. Couldn't even attempt to slow her down a little bit.
Okay, so you know how the Aces are basically A'ja Wilson? She is their whole system, their safety net, everything. So what happens when Wilson can't carry the load? Absolute chaos. That's exactly what went down in Game 1. Wilson put up 16 points and 13 rebounds, which sounds okay, but she shot a terrible 27% from the field and got into foul trouble early with 4 fouls. The Fever's defense just forced her into bad shots, and the second she sat down, Vegas completely imploded. And get this, here's the wild part. When Wilson went to the bench with her 4th foul, the Aces were only down by 3. By the time she came back in, they were down by 14. That's an 11-0 Fever run that happened just because Wilson wasn't on the court. If a juggernaut falls apart that fast when one player sits, are they really a juggernaut? Or are they just the Aces? Meanwhile, Indiana looked like a proper team. Kelsey Mitchell, who everyone has slept on for years, went off for 34 points and was a plus 20 on the floor. She was just unstoppable, hitting threes, driving hard to the rim, and burning every defender Becky Hammon threw at her. Vegas's perimeter defense was so bad, it looked like they grabbed 5 random fans to guard Mitchell. But Mitchell wasn't the only one. Odyssey Sims was brilliant too, scoring 17 points and running the offense with such composure, also finishing with a plus 20. This is a player Indiana only signed in August, yet she's already calling plays, leading huddles, and making huge plays when it counts. She looks like the perfect steady hand for when Caitlin Clark, now in her 2nd year, gets back to full playoff form. Sims never gets rattled. She doesn't force bad shots. She just keeps the fever steady, which is exactly what you need when things get intense in a playoff series. And then there's Aaliyah Boston. Statistically, her offense wasn't huge, only 6 points, but her defense on Wilson was absolutely textbook. She stayed right in front, contested every single shot, and forced Wilson into those tough fadeaways instead of easy layup. When Boston took a break, Brea Turner stepped right in and played the exact same suffocating defense. Turner isn't as strong or tall, but she just battled Wilson on every single possession, making her really work for every bucket. It was relentless. That effort. You know what else was relentless? Indiana's overall effort. Lexi Hull only scored 6 points, but she finished with a plus 24, the best on the floor. Why? Because she does all the small things that Vegas just refuses to do. She plays tough defense, cuts off passing lanes, dives for loose balls, and makes smart decisions. You can't measure her impact just by points. You measure it by the fact that every time she was on the court, the Fever looked absolutely unstoppable. This game also totally exposed a huge weakness for the Aces. They just aren't built to survive when Wilson isn't carrying them. Jackie Young had 19, Chelsea Gray had some moments, but seriously, take Wilson out and Vegas just collapses. Their bench gives them nothing. Their defensive rotations fall apart. Their chemistry just vanishes. Indiana exposed that perfectly. Plus, let's talk about the whistle. Everyone knows Wilson gets superstar calls. It happens. But the Fever still played super aggressive defense, still bodied her up, and still forced the refs to swallow the whistle sometimes. Boston risked foul trouble, but never backed down. Turner pressed her at every angle. The Fever didn't let being scared of a whistle change their game plan. They forced Wilson into inefficient plays. The difference between these two teams is just striking. Indiana plays real team basket. They move the ball, they cut hard, they defend as a unit, and they trust whoever has the hot hand. The Aces, on the other hand, play star ball. If Wilson isn't absolutely dominating, they look completely lost, and that just won't work in a 5-game series. Now let's talk about that full court press. Indiana suddenly pulled out. It's not something they've used much this season, but in this game, it completely threw Vegas off. Brea Turner on the inbound. Guards pressing the ball handlers. Traps coming early. It totally disrupted the Aces' rhythm and exposed their shaky guard play. Chelsea Gray is solid, sure, but beyond her, Vegas doesn't really have elite ball handlers. Jackie Young and Kia Stokes looked rattled, and Indiana's pressure created easy turnovers that turned into quick points. Odyssey Sims needs another shout out here, not just for her scoring, but for her leadership. She was signed just a few months ago, and she's already stepped into a veteran role. She's dictating pace, making smart passes, and keeping Indiana calm whenever the Aces try to push. For a player who wasn't even supposed to be on this team, she's now absolutely essential. And if Indiana holds on to her next season, it'll be one of their smartest moves. On top of all that, the Fever are just resilient. Natasha Howard had a big first half but then disappeared offensively in the second, but others just stepped up. Ariel Powers struggled, but the team made up for it. Shea Petty had some big moments. This is what real depth looks like. If one player is having an off night, another rises to the occasion. Vegas doesn't have that luxury. The Fever's win wasn't luck at all. It was a blueprint. Limit Wilson to under 20 points, stay super disciplined defensively, and attack relentlessly on offense. You do that, and Indiana wins. That's exactly what happened, and that's precisely why the league is in full-blown panic mode. Let's just zoom out for a second and think about the bigger picture here. The Indiana Fever were absolutely never supposed to be in this position. Just a year ago, Caitlin Clark was a rookie still figuring things out in the pros. Aaliyah Boston was still learning how to dominate against veteran bigs. And Kelsey Mitchell? Everyone dismissed her as just a good scorer on a bad team. But fast forward to right now, and the Fever are 2 wins away from the finals, while all the supposed powerhouses are totally scrambling for answers. What changed? Honestly, everything. We're talking coaching, better depth, a winning mentality, and yes, Caitlin Clark growing into her 2nd year as a pro. Even though Clark isn't playing right now, her presence on the team completely reshaped their culture. Every single opponent still game plans around her, whether she's on the court or not. That opens things up for Mitchell, Sims, and Boston to just explode. Clark's impact isn't just about her scoring, it's about the sheer fear she puts into defenses, forcing them to guard areas they really don't want to. And that fear hasn't gone anywhere just because she sidelined the series. Now let's contrast that with the Aces. They're super talented, no doubt, but they're also incredibly predictable. Everything they do starts and ends with A'ja Wilson. You stop her, and suddenly you see Jackie Young forcing shots, Chelsea Gray carrying way more than she can handle, and Becky Hammond looking at her bench with no real spark plug. The Aces used to have depth, but they don't anymore, and it's really showing. Meanwhile, Indiana has quietly built one of the most versatile rotations in the entire league. Odyssey Sims gives them a super steady hand at point guard. Mitchell is that flamethrower who can just drop 30 points on anyone. Boston is their defensive anchor. Lexi Hull is the glue player doing all the little things. Natasha Howard brings that veteran experience. Ariel Powers is an X-factor just waiting to have a huge game, and Bri Turner has become this secret weapon against elite bigs. That's not just a decent lineup, that's a finals caliber roster. Let's talk numbers for a moment. Indiana held Vegas to just 73 points. For some context, the Aces averaged over 90 points during the regular season, cutting nearly 20 points off their average. That's absolutely massive, and it's not a coincidence. This wasn't just an off night, this was pure defense. Indiana forced tough, contested jumpers, closed off all the easy lanes, and totally disrupted their timing. Vegas looked rushed and uncomfortable all night. You can totally thank Boston and Turner for that, but you can also thank the Fever guards for pressuring entry passes and cutting off Wilson's space. And while Indiana's defense was stifling, their offense was totally balanced. Mitchell's 34 points stand out, sure, but it wasn't just her show. Sims added 17, Howard contributed big in the first half, and Hull made those key plays that don't always show up in the box score. Even with Boston only scoring 6, her presence made Vegas stay on it. That's exactly what team basketball looks like. The media, of course, is scrambling for excuses. Oh, A'ja just had an off night. Vegas missed some layups. It won't happen again. But here's the actual truth. Indiana didn't just get lucky. They exposed fundamental structural flaws in the Aces. Wilson just can't carry them every single night, and the Fever know it. You don't beat a defending champion by 16 points in their own arena by accident. That's not luck. That's a massive wake-up call. And here's where it gets seriously scary for the league. Indiana only needs 2 more wins. This is a best-of-5 series. They already stole 1 game in Vegas. If they win game 2, you can basically wrap this whole thing up with a bow. Nobody is winning 3 straight against the Fever, especially when 2 of those games would be back in Indiana. The panic is absolutely real, and everyone in the league offices knows it. Remember, ESPN and others gave Indiana the lowest chance of any semifinal team to win a championship. They were totally written off as too young, too inexperienced, and not deep enough. That entire narrative just exploded. 2 wins away means the Fever are now completely in control. It means all that disrespect is just fueling them even more. And it means the WNBA's dream finals, Aces versus Liberty, is hanging by the thinnest of threads. Let's also talk about mentality. The Aces looked frustrated, totally flat, and just defeated the second things didn't go their way. Meanwhile, the Fever stayed completely locked in. When Vegas cut the lead, Indiana immediately responded with their own runs. They didn't panic, they didn't fold, they didn't act like a team happy just to be there. They acted like a team that was expecting to win. That's the real difference maker. Look back at the fourth quarter. The Fever were up by 16. Vegas cut it to 10, and for a brief moment, it felt like the momentum might totally shift. In past years, Indiana probably would have crumbled. Not this group. They settled themselves, executed on offense, and slammed the door shut. That's maturity. That's growth. That's a team that's a finals contender. Now we've got to give even more love to Sid. Signed just in August, she's already one of the most important players on this roster. Her decision-making, her leadership, and her ability to control the tempo are exactly what the Fever needed. If she's this impactful after just a few weeks with the team, just imagine what she'll be like with a full season under her belt. Honestly, Indiana would be smart to lock her up long-term. Kelsey Mitchell, meanwhile, has finally forced the league to recognize her greatness. For years, people just dismissed her as a good stats bad team player. Well, here she is, dropping 30-point bombs in the playoffs against the defending champs. She's not just a scorer anymore, she's the engine. And with Clark, even in her second year demanding so much defensive attention, Mitchell gets the space to do what she does best, absolutely torch anyone in front of her. It's actually pretty ironic. The Aces were supposed to be this unstoppable dynasty, while the Fever were just the rebuilding project. Yet here we are, with Vegas looking totally one-dimensional, and Indiana looking like the future of the league. And the panic isn't just about this series, it's about what it means for the long game. If the Fever make the finals this year, with Clark only in her second season, and Boston still developing, what's it going to look like in 2 years, or 3 years? This is a massive shift in power. The Aces and Liberty were supposed to rule the league. Instead, Indiana is crashing their party way ahead of schedule. And don't think for a second that league executives are thrilled about this. The script was already written in their heads. Aces versus Liberty, Wilson versus Stewart, the super teams battling for rating. Now the Fever are just ripping that script to shreds. And honestly, it's kinda beautiful. The Fever have shown something the Aces just don't have: pure resilience. Injuries, roster shakeups, low expectations. None of it has stopped them. They've had 3 different versions of their roster this season because of injuries, yet every single version found ways to compete and win. That's what makes this group truly dangerous. They don't care about excuses. They just play. Look at their energy too. Indiana plays like a bunch of Energizer bunnies. They run, they press, they fight for every single possession. Vegas, by comparison, looked winded, sluggish, and just totally uninterested. You can't fake that kind of hunger. Indiana has it. Vegas doesn't, and that difference shows up every single time down the floor. So now the big question is, can the Fever actually finish the job? 2 more wins, that's it. They either need to snag 1 more in Vegas, or seal it up at home. Either way, the Aces are staring at elimination way earlier than anyone thought. And if Indiana pulls this off, it'll go down as one of the greatest upsets in WNBA playoff history. But here's the twist, it honestly won't even feel like an upset to anyone who's actually watched. The Fever aren't just squeaking by, they're outplaying, outworking, and outthinking their opponents. They don't look like lucky underdogs, they look like the better team. And that's the real reason the league is panicking. Because deep down, everybody knows it. 2 more wins separate the Fever from absolutely shocking the entire WNBA world. The so-called underdogs are showing everyone they belong at the very top, and the Aces are the ones doing all the sweating.